Republicans love to say it's about the children, and we know Trump loves children.
Thursday night, you're going up the escalator? I'm going to be dating her in 10 years.
The right says we need more children.
By a bunch of childless cat ladies.
We need to protect the children. You know, the children. That's their take on abortion. So now they ban abortion, and poor children are born. And their parents can't afford to work and have childcare. So the poor ask Republicans, what about our children? And Republicans say, children? I don't see any children.
Can we do about lowering the cost of daycare? Hayden, obviously a working family, and it's very hard for working families to get by. How will we lower the cost of daycare?
It's such an important question, Charlie. And I think one of the things that we can do is make it easier for family models to choose, or for families to choose whatever model they want, right? So one of the ways that you might be able to relieve a little bit of pressure on people who are paying so much for daycare is make it so that maybe like grandma or grandpa wants to help out a little bit more. Or maybe there's an aunt or uncle that wants to help out a little bit more. If that happens, you relieve some of the pressure on all the resources that we're spending in daycare.
Okay, first of all, listening to these two crackers talk about struggling families is like Dairy Queen teaching trigonometry.
Indictable.
And getting grandpa and grandma to watch the kids, it's a great idea, but for two things. Number one, MAGA has stated they will drastically change Social Security, cutting the amount people get and making people work into their 70s. So grandma would like to babysit, but she can't because she's paying her rent with an 8-hour shift at Taco Bell.
That you probably haven't ever heard from a politician. It will be my objective to phase out Social Security, to pull it up by the roots and get rid of it.
And secondly, 75-year-olds love their grandkids, but they've also worked their entire lives. It's their turn to kick back. And who are these mopes telling them what to do with their last chapter? This guy, Charlie Kirk, he still wears Clearasil and plays hacky sack in the park with his bros while laughing at black people.
In the Civil Rights Act, though, let's be clear, created a beast, and that beast has now turned into an anti-white weapon.
And JD Vance, where do I start?
And she wants to yell at Donald Trump because he showed up. She can go to hell.
This hump will say anything to fill his wallet.
That's when the world found out.
He knows Trump is a tumor, but instead infects the nation with his hillbilly bullshit.
What we've got to do is actually empower people to get trained in the skills that they need for the 21st century. We've got a lot of people who love kids, who would love to take care of kids, but they can't, either because they don't have access to the education that they need, or maybe more importantly, because the state government says you're not allowed to take care of children unless you have some ridiculous certification that has nothing to do with taking care of kids. So empower people to get the skills they need. Don't force every early child care specialist to go and get a 6-year college degree.
Now this is rich. This wafflecock wants to lower the standards for childcare. College degree? You don't need a college degree to be a provider. Just lock the doors, put some food on the floor, and watch Judge Judy all day. This is the MAGA Project 2025 mantra. Cut, 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 and then fill all of those social services with MAGA loyalists. They plan on eliminating the Department of Education and renaming it the Department of Values, because Republican values are so in line with Judeo-Christian ideals.
Grab them by the pussy.
Daycare isn't just filling the 10-hour day while their parents are gone. It's instilling the early learning tools that pay tremendous benefits later. And I love Grandma, but she's probably not capable of dealing with many of the issues children face today, from autism and children on the spectrum to children who are dealing with gender identity and depression, issues that Trump and MAGA joke about.
As part of our new credentialing body for teachers, we will promote positive education about the nuclear family, the roles of mothers and fathers, and celebrating rather than erasing the things that make men and women different and unique. I will ask Congress to pass a bill establishing that the only genders recognized by the United States government are male and female.
But the real question is, why aren't we funding early childhood education, daycare, and after-school care? Could it be because Trump and MAGA have no problem with 12-year-olds working full-time?
For the third year in a row, the Trump administration proposed cutting $1.2 billion in federal money for after-school programs. Congress stepped in, and after-school programs across the country are safe for now. But after-school supporters are still nervous about the future cuts because the program keeps ending up on the chopping block. So what would the world look like without federal money for after-school programs? First off, not every after-school program would be impacted, but this could hit almost 2 million kids across the country. According to EdSource, California gets $136 million for after-school and summer programs. That money goes to 745 schools in the state. And that could hit those families affected pretty hard. I sat down with the Ardoins who use after-school programs, and they say for them it is a lifeline.
There are a lot of single parents in this neighborhood, so it works wonderful for parents who have to work and don't have to get off early.
Kevin Ardoin's two kids, Jada and Jonah, both go to an after-school program while he's at work because he says they don't need to be home alone with nothing to do.
When kids have ample time on their hands, they will get in trouble.
While conservatives are hell-bent on reducing taxes for corporations to the tune of trillions of dollars, the question is, what about the 95% of Americans who don't benefit from these tax breaks? Parents who are struggling to work and raise kids. Republicans, what will you do for them? Republicans, hello.
You know, you reach the point where you say, we can't do everything, so the fair question is, where's the money going to come from, Doc?
The majority of federal revenue comes from taxes, so if you need more money, you'll have to raise taxes. I'll remind you, sir, that we have had two massive trillion-dollar tax cuts in the past 20 years, and they have done nothing to make childcare more affordable. They have done nothing to help the casualty and property insurance that you were talking about today. They have not been invested in children, and we have not seen that return. I mean, the 2001 tax cuts have now had 22 years to prove that they could solve the social issues that you and your fellow senators say that are a priority, and I don't think we could point to evidence to say that they have worked. I would love for you to give child care 20 years. I would love for you to say, let's take 2 decades of runway, invest it in young children, and see what kind of return that I could get. But we've never given children or the child care sector as much runway as we've given taxes. And I'll remind you that the estate tax exemption right now is $13 million.
Well, let me say thank you for the honest answer.
She is so dead on. This is it in one sentence. Trump cut corporate tax rates from 35% to 21%, costing Americans trillions that went back to companies making billions. And who picked up the slack? Well, the idiots who are voting for Trump. The corporate tax break is still in place, but the 2-year tax cut Trump gave Americans, poof, gone. And now we live in a country where kids have nowhere safe to go after school, and while they're in school, not so safe either.
Welcome back. I'm Austin Westfall. A 14-year-old student opened fire at a Georgia high school and killed 4 people on Wednesday, authorities said, sending students scrambling for shelter in their classrooms and eventually to the football stadium as officers swarmed the campus and parents raced to find out if their children were safe.
The MAGA answer to children in harm's way is remarkable in its obscenely eloquent hypocrisy. They say they care about kids, just not your kid. If your kid lives in the inner city and her school underperforms because the classes are overcrowded and the parents are both working 2 jobs, well, just move to a nicer neighborhood. Parents are facing tremendous challenges in protecting their children from environmental dangers like inner city apartments near highways and dead bugs causing asthma, to violence in the streets and, as I mentioned, the classrooms. Back in the 80s and 90s, many cities enacted a thing called midnight basketball to keep young men off the streets and off drugs by playing basketball, and it worked. But because white Republicans didn't understand it, they worked to cut funding. 20 years later, it's coming back, and the results are the same. Invest in children, and it pays off. If Trump wins, all of the federal programs will disappear, and the states will be responsible for coming up with funding for everything. States like Florida, which are cutting everything designed to protect kids, from after-school programs to lunch assistance to editing historical events from their school books, like the deaths of American Indians and slavery. And Florida offers the greatest threat, not just to our kids, but to every American. You might have heard of it.
Even I say to myself, you're a frickin' genius.
Shut the fuck up, Donnie.
Damn right.
I'm ready. Let's go.
This isn't their Republican Party anymore.
Trust me.
Who's with me?
Oh, yeah, the lie.
Indictable.
Out of sheer morbid curiosity, I'm allowing this freak show to continue.
I don't want to talk about this stuff.
Am I wrong?
Yes.
Tick-tock.
You're in a lot of trouble, Donnie.
I think he's crazy.
I'm Chip Franklin.